Alamb. Smart move. A, B, and C is an accurate answer.
Delta.
On track. Enthalpy is the correct answer. Answer is. You're right. 1 is the correct answer. Boiling is. Right again. Endothermic is a valid answer. Enthalpy H equal to. Great thinking. U plus PV is the right choice. K to Celsius. Perfect. 173 OC is the correct choice. Freezing is. Valid point. Exothermic is true. Entropy is a. Exactly. State function makes sense and it is right choice. Universe is an. Correct response. Isolated system is the most accurate answer. Water boils at. Nice selection. 100 degrees C is the correct and valid answer. Define a liquid. You chose definite volume, indefinite shape. And it is correct. The sun produces. Great job. Light and heat energy is the accurate answer. Evaporation is a. Excellent choice. Cooling process is the right answer. This graph is a. Well done. PV diagram is the right choice. Celsius is Kelvin. Solid response. K is a valid choice. 1D equal to dash calorie. Good thinking. 0.389 is the right answer. Convert 89 of to. Well picked. 24K is the correct answer. Heat source is dash. You got it? Your choice reservoir that supplies heat is right. In isobaric process, strong choice. dP equal to ZO is the right answer. Convert 100 kF. Excellent. 279 4F is a brilliant choice. Redshift wavelength. Right choice. Gets longer increases is the best answer. 2 to 53 C to K. 526K is the answer. Con 150 of 2 off. Smart pick 65.5 C is the correct choice. Gibbs phase rule says. Nice work. You chose F plus P equal top plus 2 and it is correct. SI unit of entropy is. Clear logic. Your choice JK is sound and 100% true. Allah, how many joules? Good job. Your answer 515812 EGP works well here. Carnot cycle is a dash. Correct. Ideal cycle is the right answer. J are how many calories? Well reasoned. 295 to 1 cal is the correct choice. Volume remains constant. Nicely done. Isochoric is a solid answer. Convert Twenok to Kelvin. Sharp thinking. 293K is the right choice. Heat can be measured in. Excellent. Joules is a brilliant choice. Delta's 12 then reaction. Sharp thinking. Spontaneous is the right choice. Fuels need what to burn? Right again. Oxygen is a valid answer. Human body is example of. Solid response. Open system is a valid choice. For an adiabatic process? Well picked. Q equal to is the correct answer. Reaction rate means dash. Good job. Your answer's speed of reaction works well here. Unit of thermal energy is... Well done. Joule is the right choice. Value of CPCV for air is... Clear logic. Your choice 1.4 is sound and 100% true. What is potential energy? Bravo, stored energy is the answer. Exothermic reactions dash. Correct. Release energy is the right answer. What causes heat to flow? You got it. Your choice higher to lower temperature is right. Energy is created by dash. Valid point. None of them is true. Superheated vapor behaves. Nicely done. Approximately as a gas is a solid answer. Occurs up a mountain slope. Great thinking. Upslope is the right choice. Freezing point of water is? Right choice. 0 degrees Celsius is the best answer. Entropy of the universe is? You chose continuously increasing, and it is correct. Entropy is a dash function. Correct response. Point is the most accurate answer. Which one is an insulator? Well reasoned. Plastic is the correct choice. Carnot engine follows dash. Excellent choice. Isothermal and isoentropic process is the right answer. Spontaneous reaction means. Smart pick. Reaction occurs is the correct choice. A thermoflask represents a... Perfect. Isolated system is the correct choice, which is not an insulator. On track. Copper is the correct answer. Internal energy depends on... Nice selection. Only temperature is the correct and valid answer. Snowman melting in the sun. You're right. Radiation is the correct answer. Warm air meets cool surface. Smart move. Advection is an accurate answer. Entropy decreases when dash. Great job. Water freezes is the accurate answer. The word molecular means... Good thinking. Something related to molecules is the right answer. Absolute zero is defined as... Nice work. You chose Kelvin, and it is correct. Entropy is measured in dash. Strong choice. Joule Kelvin is the right answer. Positive enthalpy indicates. Exactly. An endothermic reaction makes sense, and it is right choice. Advantage of intercooler is... You got it. Your choice all of these is right. Step 2 in Carnot engine is... Nice work. You chose adiabatic expansion, and it is correct. Thermodynamic properties are... Good thinking. Point function is the right answer. Area under PV diagram gives... Smart pick. Work done is the correct choice. Which has the least entropy? Perfect. Diamond is the correct choice. Heat of combustion is always... Well picked. VE is the correct answer. Entropy in a natural process. Strong choice. Increases is the right answer. Heat flows from dash to dash. Great job. Hot, cold is the accurate answer. Dash is not a state variable. Good job. Your answer heat works well here. Zeroth law is connected with. You chose thermodynamic equilibrium. And it is correct. Surface tension arises due to. Correct response. Cohesive forces is the most accurate answer. Steam piping out of a teapot. Smart move. Convection is an accurate answer. No change in internal energy. Excellent choice. Isothermal is the right answer. Work done by the gas is 0. Sharp thinking. If volume is constant is the right choice, energy cannot be dash or dash. Correct. Created, destroyed is the right answer, which absorbs more radiation. Clear logic. Your choice dark objects is sound and 100% true. Absorbs energy. Well reasoned. Endergonic reaction is the correct choice. When heat is released, it isn't. You're right. Exothermic reaction is the correct answer. How many joules in 5 calories? Well done. 29.5J is the right choice. Internal energy is related to. Nicely done. With the temperature is a solid answer. Average kinetic energy is dash. Right again. A cut is a valid answer. Thermodynamics is the study of. On track. All is the correct answer. A device that is not efficient. Great thinking. Heat engine is the right choice. A great conductor of energy is. Right choice. Metal is the best answer. Rate of chemical reaction means. Nice selection. Speed of reaction is the correct and valid answer. Which direction does heat flow? Exactly. From warm to cold makes sense, and it is right choice. The sun warms the earth by dash. Excellent. Radiation is a brilliant choice. All irreversible processes are. Bravo, spontaneous is the answer. What are the units of enthalpy? Solid response. Kajikiji is a valid choice. Boiling water is an example of. Valid point. Convection is true. Convection is heat transfer by. On track. Fluid movement is the correct answer. Heat transfer always goes from. Valid point. Hot to cold is true. Fireworks is an example of dash. Great job. An exothermic reaction is the accurate answer. Sulfur is an example of dash ion. You chose polyatomic, and it is correct. Tongue freezing to a metal pole. Smart pick. Conduction is the correct choice, which has a negative sign for S. Nicely done. Water freezing is a solid answer. Boiling point is the function of. Well reasoned. Pressure is the correct choice. It is a constant entropy process. Nice work. You chose isentropic process, and it is correct. A concept that addresses entropy. Correct. Second law of thermodynamics is the right answer. Heat is a form of energy cooled. Great thinking. Thermal energy is the right choice. Identify the type of system. No 3. Strong choice. Isolated system is the right answer. Melting point of ice is -so C. Excellent choice. So is the right answer. What is not a thermal insulator? You're right. Gold is the correct answer. What does a thermometer measure? Clear logic. Your choice temperature is sound and 100% true. Transition from a liquid to a gas. Smart move. Evaporation is an accurate answer. Which is not a thermal conductor. Sharp thinking. Cotton is the right choice. Refers to the energy in transit. Bravo! Heat is the answer. What is the formula for pressure? Right choice. P equal to F squared is the best answer. A solution with a FES of 7 is dash. Exactly. Neutral makes sense, and it is right choice. The temperature of sink is always. Well picked. Minimum is the correct answer. The opposite of expansion is dash. Well done. Contraction is the right choice. The unit for heat? Right again. Joules is a valid answer. 1 joule is equal to how many joules? Good thinking. 4184 is the right answer. Select the correct symbol for heat. Correct response. Q is the most accurate answer. With Boyle's law, dash is constant. Good job. Your answer temperature works well here. Thermal energy is measured in dash. Perfect. Joules is the correct choice. The lowest point on a wave is the. Nice selection. Trough is the correct and valid answer. Has a mass of 4 and a charge of +2. Excellent. Alpha is a brilliant choice. What is the reciprocal of density? You got it. Your choice specific volume is right. Systems have a natural tendency to. Solid response. Evenly distribute energy is a valid choice. In a natural process, entropy dash. Excellent choice. Increases is the right answer. 30 degrees Fahrenheit is very dash. On track. Cold is the correct answer. Slow compression is an example for. Solid response. Quasi-static process is a valid choice. The unit of energy in SI units is. Exactly. Joule makes sense and it is right choice. When two magnets attract, they dash. You chose pull together, and it is correct. Molecules are closest together in air. Nicely done. Solid is a solid answer. The Gibbs free energy is defined as. You're right. H-TESS is the correct answer. When it is cold, the atoms move dash. Nice selection. Slow is the correct and valid answer. In adiabatic process, heat changes. Valid point. 0 is true. The value of CV for diatomic gases. You got it. Your choice 5 to R is right. How is air heated in our atmosphere? Perfect. Radiation is the correct choice, which is an example of the Zoth law. Great job. A equal talk is the accurate answer. When the heat leaves the system dash. Strong choice. The heat is negative is the right answer. The father of thermodynamics is dash. Good thinking. Steady Carnot is the right answer. Which sample has the lowest entropy? Great thinking. 1 mole of No3 is the right choice. What is the SI unit for temperature? Excellent. Kelvin is a brilliant choice. What is the unit of specific weight? Well reasoned. NZM is the correct choice. Anabolism and catabolism are part of. Well done. Metabolism is the right choice. What does the term steady implies? Right again. No change with time is a valid answer. Which of these is intensive variable? Correct. Temperature is the right answer. How many hours are there in one day? Bravo, sexive is the answer. Which ion can be most easily oxidized? Clear logic. Your choice calcium +2 is sound and 100% true. The number of districts in Terengganu? Well picked. 8 is the correct answer. When disorder increases, entropy dash. Smart pick. Increases is the correct choice. In physics, there is no such thing as. Nice work. You chose cold and it is correct. Matter changes from a gas to a solid. Right choice. Deposition is the best answer. How does an exothermic reaction feel? Sharp thinking. Warm is the right choice. Processes method change the value of. Smart move. All is an accurate answer. An isochoric process is one in which. Correct response. Volume remains constant is the most accurate answer. Which material is the best insulator? Good job. Your answer, a pot holder, works well here. Angstrom paralleliometer is used to find. Great thinking. Solar constant is the right choice. Releases energy? Nicely done. Exergonic reaction is a solid answer. No heat is added or taken away in dash. Nice selection. Adiabatic processes is the correct and valid answer. During a phase change, the temperature. Great job. Stays the same is the accurate answer. In an irreversible process, there is a. Well reasoned. Loss of heat is the correct choice, which is not a law of thermochemistry. You chose Leonard Jones, and it is correct. Where all phases coexist in equilibrium. Nice work. You chose triple point, and it is correct. The ability to do work or cause change. Bravo. Energy is the answer. A good example of a heat engine is dash. Valid point. All of the above is true. What is the lowest possible temperature? Excellent. Absolute zero is a brilliant choice. Work done in a free expansion process is. Good thinking. Maximum is the right answer. Beverage used to survive hot summers is. Well done. Iced tea is the right choice. Molecules in dash are closest together. Strong choice. Solids is the right answer. Heat always travels in which direction? Smart pick. Hot to cold is the correct choice. Temperatures on Earth are influenced by. Well picked. All of these is the correct answer. The ideal thermodynamic cycle is called. Good job. Your answer, the Carnot cycle, works well here. Who is the oldest family member listed? You're right. Grandfather is the correct answer. Wien's law in radiation is applicable too. Solid response. Shorter wavelengths is a valid choice. Energy transfer through waves is called. Perfect. Radiation is the correct choice. Energy has different forms which include. Excellent choice. All of the mentioned is the right answer. In Carnot cycle, dash processes are there. Correct response. 4 is the most accurate answer. How many phosphate groups does AP have? Sharp thinking. 3 is the right choice. 1 atm is equivalent to how many pascals? Right again. Unwondering 25 is a valid answer. The heat content of a reaction is called. You got it? Your choice enthalpy is right. Change from liquid to gas is called dash. Exactly. Evaporation makes sense and it is right choice. What has particularly high specific heat? Right choice. Water is the best answer. Free energy change at equilibrium is dash. Clear logic. Your choice, 0, is sound and 100% true. An organism that can make their own food. On track. Producer is the correct answer. Which of the following is a closed system? Smart move. Pressure cooker is an accurate answer. A vase breaks on the floor. The vase dash. Correct. Increases in entropy is the right answer. The region in which ozone layer exists is. Great job. Stratosphere is the accurate answer. What tool is used to measure temperature? Nice selection. A thermometer is the correct and valid answer. During phase change, dash does not change. Clear logic. Your choice temperature is sound and 100% true. Energy of motion is which type of energy? Smart pick. Kinetic is the correct choice. The place you find the higher temperature. Perfect. Heat source is the correct choice. The kinetic energy is equivalent to what? Correct response. Temperature is the most accurate answer. How many laws of thermodynamics are there? Nice work. You chose 4 and it is correct. The entropy of the universe is always dash. Well picked. Increasing except at equilibrium is the correct answer. Heat stops flowing when 2 objects are in. Strong choice. Equilibrium is the right answer. Constant pressure process is also known as. On track. All of the mentioned is the correct answer.
The amount of heat transferred depends on?
Exactly. All of the above makes sense, and it is right choice. What happens to particles as they heat up? Good thinking. They speed up is the right answer. Water boils at 100 degrees on which scale? Correct. Celsius is the right answer. Thermal energy depends on what two things? Excellent choice. Mass and temperature is the right answer. The total energy of a closed system is the valid point. Internal energy is true.
Zeroth law of thermodynamics is related to?
Right choice. Thermal equilibrium is the best answer. Transfer of thermal energy through space. Nicely done. Radiation is a solid answer. If work done on a system, then work done is right again. Negative is a valid answer. Temperature of the sun is measured by dash. Smart move. Pyrometer is an accurate answer. The first law of thermodynamics deals with. You're right. Conservation of energy is the correct answer. Which steam engine was the most efficient? Solid response. Watts is a valid choice. What is the reciprocal of specific volume? Bravo! Density is the answer. The temperature of the system reduces in an. You chose adiabatic expansion, and it is correct. Which state of matter has a definite shape? Excellent. Solid is a brilliant choice. Energy that is in the form of heat and work. You got it. Your choice, transitional energy, is right. Change in internal energy will be 0 for. Good job. Your answer, isothermal process, works well here. What is defined as the force per unit area? Great thinking. Pressure is the right choice. A gas performs maximum work when it expands. Well reasoned. Isobarically is the correct choice. When an object sinks, that is dash buoyancy. Sharp thinking. Negative is the right choice. What is the heat capacity ratio for helium? Well done. 5/3 is the right choice. A temperature increase causes the particles. Right again. Move faster is a valid answer. The transfer of heat through direct contact. Excellent choice. Conduction is the right answer. Entropy is the measure of dash in a system. Clear logic. Your choice disorder is sound and 100% true. As a system becomes more disordered, entropy. You chose increases, and it is correct. Melting occurs when matter changes from dash. Well done. Solid to liquid is the right choice. Energy that is transferred by direct contact. Nice selection. Conduction is the correct and valid answer. Photosynthesis is an example of dash energy. Right choice. Chemical is the best answer. The sum of kinetic and potential energy dash. Well reasoned. Mechanical energy is the correct choice. Thermal energy is transferred through Smart pick. All of these is the correct choice. Using table I, the dissolving of naclis. Great thinking. Endothermic is the right choice. Total heat of the substance is known as dash. Great job. Enthalpy is the accurate answer.
Energy from the sun travels to Earth as dash.
Correct. Radiant energy is the right answer. Phase change going from liquid to solid dash. On track. Freezing is the correct answer. Just above the critical temperature we have. Sharp thinking. Supercritical fluid is the right choice. Higher temperatures make particles move dash. Strong choice. Faster is the right answer. In which of the following entropy decreases? Excellent. Crystallization of sucrose solution is a brilliant choice. What is the energy associated with velocity? Perfect. Kinetic energy is the correct choice. Radiation is how heat transfers through dash. Bravo, empty space is the answer. The study of energy and its transformations. Nicely done. Thermodynamics is a solid answer. When something is moving, it has dash energy. Solid response. Kinetic is a valid choice. The Mollier diagram is plotted on what plane? You're right. ACE is the correct answer. The change of phase from a liquid to a solid. Smart move. Freezing is an accurate answer. Isothermal process is a constant dash process. Correct response. Temperature is the most accurate answer. Heat transferred is completely used for work. You got it? Your choice isothermal is right. The dryness fraction of superheated steam is... Nice work. You chose one and it is correct. Thermal energy always moves from dash to dash. Good thinking. Warmer to cooler is the right answer. During an adiabatic process, dash is constant. Well picked. Heat is the correct answer. Which factor affects the entropy of a system? Exactly. All of the above makes sense and it is right choice. Internal energy of ideal gas is a function of... Good job. Your answer temperature only works well here. When air is heated, what happens to its mass? Valid point. Remains the same is true. Internal energy is used exclusively for work. Smart move. Adiabatic is an accurate answer. Which of the following changes is exothermic? You got it. Your choice, burning of gasoline, is right. A gas performs the most work when it expands. Nice work. You chose isobarically and it is correct. Which is the correct sequence of power plant? Excellent choice. Feed pump, boiler, turbine, condenser is the right answer. Nutritionists measure energy in units called. Perfect. Calories is the correct choice. The first law of thermodynamics is also called. Clear logic. Your choice law of internal energy is sound and 100% true. Which type of energy is stored in a substance? Well done. Potential energy is the right choice. Is there any enthalpy change in cyclic system? Valid point. No is true.
Heat transfer occurs from hot to cold.
Right again. Always is a valid answer.
In first-order transitions, the heat capacity is
correct. Infinite is the right answer. A system comprising a single phase is called
well-reasoned. Heterogeneous system is the correct choice. Phase change going from a gas to a liquid dash.
smart pick. Condensation is the correct choice. A measure of the energy dispersal in a system.
Great job. Entropy is the accurate answer. The SI unit for temperature is the dash scale.
Nicely done. Kelvin is a solid answer. Chemical reaction in which energy is absorbed? Exactly. Endothermic reaction makes sense and it is right choice. In an unsaturated air, the state of a vapor is well picked. Superheated is the correct answer. An increase in thermal energy in a system dash. Sharp thinking. Increases entropy is the right choice. What term describes a solid changing to a gas? Nice selection. Sublimation is the correct and valid answer. What is the important thermodynamic properties? Great thinking. All above is the right choice. The process by which a gas changes to a liquid. Good job. Your answer condensation works well here. What happens to the particles when I add heat? You're right. The particles get faster is the correct answer. The majority of Earth's energy comes from dash. Excellent. The sun is a brilliant choice. What are the two types under mechanical energy? Right choice. Kinetic and potential is the best answer. Which of the following is not a good insulator? You chose copper wire. And it is correct. Which of these has the strongest London forces? Solid response. I too is a valid choice. What are chemical reactions that absorb energy? Bravo, endothermic is the answer. Which of the following is not a state function? Correct response. Q is the most accurate answer. The pressure of each gas in a mixture is called. Strong choice. Partial pressure is the right answer. An isochoric process is one which takes place at. Good thinking. Constant volume is the right answer. In terms of entropy energy, gas to a liquid. Solid. On track, is the correct answer. The mass of 1 mole of substance is called dash. Excellent. Molar mass is a brilliant choice. Molecules move quickest in which state of matter? Perfect. Gas is the correct choice. Which of the following can sound travel through? Great thinking. All of the above is the right choice. When an electrochemical cell is operating, it is clear logic. Your choice. Approaching equilibrium is sound and 100% true.
Relations between heat and other forms of energy.
Great job. Thermodynamics is the accurate answer.
Which of the following is not extensive property?
You chose density, and it is correct. When ice melts, the temperature.
Nice selection. Remains the same is the correct and valid answer. The heat absorbed by melting a solid is known as
Smart move. Latent heat of fusion is an accurate answer.
What is the phase change of a solid to a liquid?
Nice work. You chose melting, and it is correct.
Which of the following is a unit of temperature?
Good thinking. Celsius degree is the right answer.
Energy transfer through liquids or air is called?
Excellent choice. Convection is the right answer.
A dash is a device for measuring temperature.
You got it? Your choice, thermometer, is right.
Which of the following has the greatest entropy?
On track. Cookies and cream milkshake is the correct answer.
In closed cycle gas turbine, the air is compressed. Right again. Isentropically is a valid answer. Entropy describes the amount of dash in a system.
Strong choice. Disorder is the right answer.
Standard atmospheric pressure is 101.325 PA.
Sharp thinking. 14.7s is the right choice.
Why are metals useful for making electrical wire?
Valid point. Metals are conductors is true.
In this case, we can see what thermodynamics law.
Right choice. And if is the best answer.
Heat moves by dash when it travels through waves.
Smart pick. Radiation is the correct choice.
Compared with a single gas, a mixture of gases is?
Well picked. More random is the correct answer.
The internal energy of an ideal gas depends upon.
You're right. Temperature only is the correct answer.
The specific heat capacity of water is -J.
Correct. 4200 is the right answer.
The biggest heat source for our planet is the dash.
Exactly. Sun makes sense and it is right choice.
The pressures listed in thermodynamics tables are.
Well done.
Absolute pressure is the right choice. Process by which a gas changes directly to a solid.
Nicely done. Deposition is a solid answer.
In the Carnot cycle, the two adiabatic changes are.
Well reasoned. Equal and opposite is the correct choice.
What is the size of the droplets found in drizzle?
Solid response, 0.5 mmHg is a valid choice.
Heat and work are both into or out of a system.
Bravo. A energy transferred is the answer.
There is no work transfer involved in this process.
Good job. Your answer-free expansion works well here.
Potential and kinetic energy is also known as dash.
Correct response. Mechanical energy is the most accurate answer.
How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Bravo. Contact Narayan Chengder is the answer.